As many of you might already know, for batteries to participate in the balancing markets and start getting revenues from this participation, a pre-qualification process and approval from the respective TSO for the country is required. So it's a mandatory step. And the pre-qualification process includes performance of a set of tests. Of course, the preparation work that needs to come before to secure readiness for these tests, but later on also for the participation in the markets. Application forms and documentation that needs to be sent to the TSO and reviewed by the TSO. It is interesting to note, and what Florian also mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, that every week of a pre-qualification delay can result in an almost 2% lost revenue for a year. Additionally, in many cases, pre-qualifications is not a one-time exercise. Often, the duration of a pre-qualification being valid is shorter than the operational lifetime of the battery. For example, in Sweden, pre-qualifications are valid for up to 5 years. So this exercise or part of this process needs to be repeated. And in the meantime, new requirements might be in place that need to be met. So it is crucial to work with an experienced experienced partner that can take care of the complete pre-qualification process, has done this many times before, and is on top as well of potential market changes. BESS projects, especially if we're talking about like front-of-the-meter large-scale projects, can be a quite complex matter with many steps and parties involved. And the pre-qualification adds to that complexity, and it shouldn't be underestimated. So here on the slide, we can see on a high level, because in reality, things can be even more complex, the different steps in a BESS project. And this last part here is where SimPower can step in as a partner. Of course, there are cases where we are involved in earlier stages, being in contact with asset owners and project developers, helping assessing the business cases, providing market insights and information. But this part is, let's say, our core business. So the pre-qualification of the assets, trading of the batteries, and optimization across the different markets, and revenue reporting. And the pre-qualification can be both time-consuming and complex. The time-consuming part depends quite often on processing times from the TSOs. And the complexity lies in the fact that there are actual complex requirements and different tests across the different market programs, so balancing markets. And there are differences between TSO's requirements and processes. Even in the Nordics, where the requirements are harmonized to a great extent, there are some differences in what and how the TSOs want to see things. And on top of that complexity, the market is quite dynamic. So there are new requirements that might come in place and market design changes. So while the time to perform the actual pre-qualification tests can be quite short, there are significant risks for delays. And these delays cannot be 100% eliminated because they depend also on a third party, so the TSOs and their processing times. But they can be for sure mitigated by choosing the right partner. And here we list some key factors to consider when choosing a partner. And this is experience in project management, so a partner that can coordinate with all the different parties involved, because there can be quite many parties involved to secure readiness for the tests. A strategic overview of the BESS project, so a partner that has also an understanding of typical processing times for the different market programs. It can help you make a plan, prioritizing some tests, applications, or actions in order to get access to some of the markets and start generating revenues as soon as possible before an approval for all the targeted markets is received. Technical solutions that have been already approved by the TSO, a strong understanding of the TSO's requirements and the different tests that need to be performed, and a partner that can quite quickly identify if something is off, for example, with a test that needs to be repeated before submitted to the TSO. Extensive experience with the application forms, and of course, structured and established good communications with the TSOs. The way we work at SimPower is that we take full ownership over the pre-qualification process. Of course, with pre-qualification tests, coordinating with different parties, such as the BRPs, the asset owner, EPCs, even hardware equipment providers. We have the hardware and software, for example, frequency simulators, of course, for performing the necessary tests in a quick and smooth way. And since we are also in communication with all the parties involved, we have a full understanding of each project's technical characteristics and operational constraints. We take care of the documentation and the application forms that are fully aligned with the TSO's requirements. And we also continuously improve ourselves based on previous feedback and the experience that we have gained in the markets. And we have technical solutions that have been previously reviewed and approved by the TSO. We handle, of course, TSO's feedback and follow-up questions that might come in a clear and structured way. And in general, we take full ownership until a final approval is received and the asset can trade in the markets. So some key takeaways from this section are that the pre-qualification process is a required step for the participation in the balancing markets. It is a time-consuming and a complex process with high risk of entry delays to the market. And an experienced partner can help avoid costly delays and can help you accelerate entry to the market.